Okay then, hello wonderful people. Right, I'm about to go inside after taking a break from this job, which is the pond, to go and complete something that I was doing yesterday that you guys are about to watch now. So yeah, I need a break. I just can't deal with it. I was going to do a bit on the pond and then go in and go and do that, but I've hit something that could be a big problem for the pond, which is concerning. And while I sit here and try and fathom out what the hell it is, and what it belongs to, and whether or not it is still in use, I'm going to go and do that. So before I completely and utterly throw the towel in. So on that note, you are going to watch me put something together, which is something that I haven't done for a long time and I do enjoy doing, and hopefully we will be seeing more of this, possibly on a larger scale though. So let me get back to you in a second, and while you guys watch this. Okay then, wonderful people, this is the little cube tank we are going to be scaping. It's been a long time since I've done one of these tanks, and if I'm being honest, I couldn't really find half of my equipment, but it's fine. We're going to make do and mend as per usual. We're just going to wing it. So it was a case of, can I remember? I'm not sure. But anyway, this is the little cube tank that we are going to do. I've had this little tiny cube tank for many years, and it comes with, when you purchase it, it came with a little stand with a little light and a little filter that all runs off of one plug, which is super handy for like a little desk aquarium, or like I've got it on my little shelving unit. It's a really nice little tank. Obviously the water volume is very small, so you need to watch what you're putting in it. But after using it for many years, I have found a slight problem with at least the filtration system that it came with. This is, excuse the grime, you can see, look, this has been used before. This has been used, obviously, and you know, it's fine. There's its little, you know, its little jack plug that it goes into. Like I said, it's been put out in storage, and it's literally just running. You just pop that off, and it's just running some filter floss and a little bit of sponge at the bottom. That's all it is, right? And then obviously your little power head. Now, you'd think that that's quite sweet. That's quite lovely. But when you put it in, it's quite large. And by the time you've got any form of substrate in there, it's even more, and literally the substrate ends up sitting right at the bottom of the pump. So I never really did like this very much. It's very nice, you can adjust the flow, you know, so that's full open and that's all the way down, and you know, I'm sure in some cases it would work. You could probably turn it on its side, but that to me, no. So anyway, that's been in, gone. We're not going to use that. So, what I've decided to do is make my own sponge filter. So, we're going to use this to hide the sponge filter, which will be at the back. Now, also what I'm going to use, which that thing is right there, is my little heater that I've obviously, again, used many times. I have tested it, it's working perfectly. That goes in, it's a little preset filter, works absolutely fine. So that's going to just fit in there, because you know, finding a heater, that fits this tank is also quite difficult. So that's going to hide that. Now I also want it to hide the filtration system that I'm going to run. So I'm going to make my own little sponge filter. It's honestly, they're dead simple. So I've got some of this in a big mat, and all I've done is I've cut out a slot at the bottom, and we've got some black airline tube and an air stump. And we're going to do, and a knitting needle, I find is quite handy. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop said old knitting needle to there, so that makes it nice and stiff, nice and rigid, and we're going to plop this through, and we're just going to push it through, work it through the sponge, and then you can pull out said knitting needle. And then at the bottom here where your hole is, we're just going to attach the air stone, make sure it's on, and then you're literally just going to pull that up and in, and it disappears inside your sponge. Obviously I've cut this so it again hides behind that. So I've got my filtration system sorted. Obviously it's going to run off my main air loop system in my room. We had the preset heater running. That's fine. Like I said, this room stays quite warm. Preset heaters have been known to be a little bit precarious on their heating, that they fluctuate quite a bit. I've not found that in a room like this where the ambient temperature is quite warm, because obviously of all the other fish tanks. So it's not been an issue for me personally. We also have a little sticky thing to make sure my cables are in. Okay, so let me now show you what we're going to use for substrate and all of the rest of it. Okay, so for the main substrate, as this is going to be a plant tank, I've decided to use this that I've had laying about as your base on the bottom of the tank. So what I'm going to do is put some in there. I'm going to slope it towards the back, so the majority of it will be at the back. And then, so there's a good layer of our planted substrate and nutrient-based substrate at the back for plants. And then I'm going to cap it with sand. So we have my tub of sand, which has been washed and rinsed out again. So that's going to be our main filtration, our main substrate for the tank. Okay, so last night I decided I was going to start having a little bit of a fiddle, and just to just to speed things up a little bit, so I wasn't waiting too long. I found this piece of wood in my collection that I'm going to use, that I quite like the shape of. I measured it to make sure that it's all right. Trimmed the ends off, sanded them round, run a bit of smooth sandpaper over it, and then I glued it to this rock. So then that way then it's just going to stay straight down, no floating, no messing about whatsoever. We're going to pop in our base layer first, which is that planted nutrient-based substrate, which obviously is this stuff. So we're just going to put, we don't want a humongous amount, but we do want at least a generous portion of such stuff. Because obviously, it's going to last a while. Whenever I've done these, which admittedly isn't much, I've never had to replace this. So we should be absolutely fine. And what we're going to do is we're just going to arc it back slightly, because I definitely want more towards the back. And we're definitely going to need more of that stuff in. Biggest part, which is this bit. Now obviously I'm aware that's got to stay there, so we're just going to try and go round it, pop that in like so. Yeah, so one, that's helping to hold up a piece of slate. It's also covering up that part nicely. Now, let's try and pop in some of these little stones just for a little bit of. We'll leave that bit first, thinking about it, and we shall go for the sand next. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go and get my spray bottle. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a spray down. I've got to go and fetch that though, so I shall be right back. Okay, so we're now going to start prepping the plants. Right, so what I have in front of you here is some Java moss. I'm not even going to try and pronounce people, because, you know, I've been called many a times on the way I pronounce things. So this is one that you do not put into the substrate. You glue or tie on to rocks or wood. And then obviously we have some of this, which is going to be our grassy type feature, just to accent a few bits around the front as well. I do have some stem plants to go into the back, behind the wood, but we will deal with those in a bit. So let's just get these lots, or these little bits sorted first, and I'll show you how we prep these. So the first thing I'm going to deal with is I'm going to deal with the two that need to be stuck. So the idea is we're going to use some of this moss to stick to the top of the wood, and you can really see it at the moment, but I'll show you. The top of the wood and part of the bottom part of the wood, and then this bit is just going to be popped into that little notch in there, and maybe around the corner. So we're going to prep these first. So what we're going to do is, first thing I think is to glue our moss to our piece of wood. Let's try and get this close enough for you. So there is at that funny angle. I'm going to glue some to here around the edge and on top, and then we're going to do some along here, and maybe just possibly a little bit along there. So we don't need all of these plants. We can leave some of these alone. I do have some glue here that I used to glue the wood onto the rock before. I also have a new one in case I run out, or this becomes stubborn, because, you know, we all know what glue's like. And it's been used several times now on a couple of little experimental bits. So we're just literally going to take this moss out of its little pot it's been in. We're going to gently tear some off. I think that should be enough, and the idea is just literally just to plonk it along there. And then it should hang down. So where things get very wet, it's very dodgy. So you have enough glue in this tube to do the job. Okay, I do have some glue in the tube. So I'm just going to put a generous helping. Glue along here. So it's fine. I'm not going to see this because it won't show through the plant. And the dot down there, and this is definitely the last bit out of this piece of glue. And just a dot there. And we'll use the next piece to do the end. And I'm literally just going to stick that along there. Down into the little bits. glue. Now this stuff does not take long to set. So I do have some glue on my hands. It's not a problem. It's been growing in that little pot sitting in the windowsill, quite happily minding its own business. It's quite good. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to prep this stuff, because the pots and moss are nice and easy. You literally just come out and give them a sprays, job done. This is why I'm so worried. This is my wet working area. Okay, so let's deal with this one. You're going to need a pot. All we do, I've got glue stuck to my hands. All we do is literally take the top off. Now when you take this out, pour that out of there, because that is all the water we don't want. Now, some of these have literally just that, it's just a bit of water. Other times they have a gel part in the bottom. Can you, I don't know whether you can see or hear, that stuck itself to the pot. So that is a nice, healthy plant. Okay, can you see the root system? All on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take, I'm going to tuck that away in there. And what we're going to do is we want to separate this off, but try not to completely rip it to shreds, because I don't want obviously all of it, I just want bits of it. So you have to sort of find a decent sized stem and just gently tease it apart like that. Like I said, I'm not going to be using all of this. I just want to be able to separate it into decent chunks. Now I've found with plants like this that come out of these little pre-grow pots, the bigger the chunks you can leave it in, the better the plant does. Now obviously, if you had such a scape that you could literally just take the whole of that and just plonk it, that would be absolutely lovely. But obviously, this is not that kind of scape. This is a real mini scape, so we are having to use mini pieces of it. I think this might, you're going to happily break into two, or real tiny bits in there, so I'll try and do something with those later. Right, so this particular plant, look, that's sort of like a decent root system. That one doesn't want to separate, but that's fine. So now what we need to do is we need to sort of have a look to see what bits are going to fit where within our scape. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start dealing with our little grassy textures. As you can, I don't know whether you can see, I've stuck another rock in the back there and another round rock there, more like a pebble, because that is what we're going to place this around. So with this one, again, I'm just going to pop it out there. And same thing, we want to leave these into good sized clumps, but obviously not anything too big. Now, as you can tell, these are not going to be the easiest things to get into our substrate. So this is where tweezers come in handy. So we're literally just going to hopefully put that to one side. Just going to move our tank a little bit closer so you can see again. And we're just going to pop this down. And the idea is to get it go around, and what I can do actually might be a better idea. Just going to get some of, whoopsie, I'm going to get some of these little bits to go underneath where that rock would have been. And I'm just going to place the rock basically on top of it, just like that. Now it's time to start dealing with the bigger plants. So I might have to change camera angles in a second, which we can do, but these are my bigger plants. So we've got some nice tall stem plants to go in, which is why I did the back as a slope. And that way then, because these are root structured ones, and obviously the roots can go quite far down, they've got something to grab onto a little bit easier. So we have, focus, come on, there we go, focus, there we go, that one. I'm not going to try and pronounce them. I know how I would say them, but we're not going to go there. And a little cricked. Oh, I said I wasn't going to say anything. So these ones are quite simple. So we're going to grab this little pot back again. I need a proper tray to start doing things like this, don't I? So what we're going to do is we're going to pop this out of this little pot, give it a little squeeze, just like you would a normal plant. Allow that to come away, and obviously, look, you can see it's got the good root structure on. So we're literally just going to pull away 2 halves of the rock wall to expose all of those roots. Now you want to try and get the majority of the rock wall off you can, which there isn't many there, so that's always a good thing. And we're literally just going to go for, say, about half. What half should we go for? Should we go for this half? Let's go for this half. Okay, and the same thing, obviously there's our roots. So what we want to do is get our roots as far down into there as possible. So I'm just going to grab that. Make sure we've got all of them in one hit. We don't want to break any. We're literally just going to go down. We're going to dig them in. We're going to let go, and then we're just going to fill that back. Now obviously, because there's no water, they are going a little bit flopsy-wopsy. Stone back because I accidentally knocked it. Got that one there, and then we're just going to do the same with our other stem plant. So there we go. There is our scape in dry form. Now, I think it's missing a background because obviously the black background is my fleece that's over my desk chair. So yesterday, while I was doing busy doing things, I printed off an image and I laminated it to use as our background. So, we'll look something like that once it's on its stand. That looks better, doesn't it? So, let me pop it back on its shelf, on its stand, and I'm going to start putting the water in. I'm going to slowly run water into here using my method that I do when I'm using, when I'm doing water changes on any fry tanks. So that's literally going to be a piece of airline with a air tap, just running the water in. I might even just literally use a piece of airline. I don't think that's going to worry it too much. I don't want to pour the water in because obviously it's going to disturb all the sand and make a big dip and it will look horrible. So let me put this on the shelf, start getting some water in quick because of the plants. Oh, just on a quick one, these other plants that I've used here that I haven't used, it's not a problem. What you do is if you keep your rock wall and you haven't used them all, you can literally just fold them back up into the rock wall, pop them back in their little pots and put them back into a store tank. That's all I'm going to do, and they'll be absolutely fine, I promise. Okay, so there we go. It is in place. I've turned the light on just so I can see what's going on. I am dripping in, or not, I'm running in slowly water from a bottle which is sat on the shelf above, which is where this airline cable is coming from, and it's gone in there. I did try it without the tap, and it was just a little bit too quick and it started to upset the sand. So I've dealt with that. So I've stuck a tap on, and it is running at a fair lick, but I have got it because obviously the tap's there. It's that little bit easier to sit where I want it. So I've sat it on the wood. That way then the water's hitting the wood and then just dripping off, as you can see right there. So what I have done, and I am going to continue to do while it is filling, is just giving it a little bit of a spray down, because obviously the whole time there's no water in there, the plants are drying out. So just give it a little bit of a spray, keep everything nice and moist while it's dripping in. So once it's filled, I will come back to you and we will see how this is looking. So I'm quite excited. It's been a very long time since I've done a scape, and I'm very much out of practice. What I haven't done is added the background on, which I will do in a second. I've literally just realised. So yeah, so I mean, look, you can see that the water level is rising. It's just going to take some time. So we will see. Anyway, I'm going to let that fill, and I will get back to you as soon as it has filled up. And basically what I'm going to do. Let's just, there's no need for you to see it completely filled without anything else happening. So I'm going to let the tank fill up. I'm going to turn on the air, which is obviously behind a piece of slate there. I'm going to turn on the heater. I'm then going to leave it the rest of this afternoon and tonight into tomorrow to make sure that everything is up to temperature, make sure that everything's settled in fine, and then we will add our new little critters to their new homes. So I will get back to you tomorrow when this is filled and we're adding in the new things that are going to call this tiny little tank home. Okay then, right, it's the next day. I'm taking a break from what I was doing because I feel like giving up. And it's time to put these in. So the tank's been sat overnight, it's up to temperature, everything is looking good. They have been acclimating, and what we have are 5 little blue diamond shrimp. Now they're only young, so they're only small, they're not even fully grown yet. And they are going to be our inhabitants of this tank. I don't know whether you can see them through there, just about, look. So we're just literally going to tip them in, nice and gently. You need 2 hands. Out you come. Hey, and there we go. 5 little tiny, that one doesn't want to come out, look. There we go. little shrimplets. I'm going to call that tiny little nano tank home. Okay, so there you go. All done. A mini nano tank that is housing 5 little shrimplets. That are going to call that home. I actually thoroughly enjoyed doing that. It's been a long time since I've done a tank like that. Yeah, so I'm hoping that there will be many more tanks like that to come in the future. Just once I've got the pond done, then there'll be another project. But we'll talk about that one another day. So for now, I'm going to leave these guys to settle in, and I'm going to love you and leave you. And until the next time, people, I'm going to go and carry on with that pond. Or at least try to, and work out what I'm going to do next. So for now, bye!